Bro, look at my hair. It's fucking... I don't even know what's happening here. Alright. Okay, so the other day our car broke down. It wouldn't start, and so we got it towed to the local dealership. It's one of the only places in town that'll work on my Hyundai, and it's one of the only places that's open past 5 p.m. And I absolutely hate this dealership. Not naming names, but they've screwed me over more times than I can count. And lucky me, it's one of the only options for major fixes for my little Sonata. So of course, it broke down on the Friday before Memorial Day weekend. So the mechanics weren't going to look at it until Tuesday. Great. So we managed to get through the weekend by carpooling. Me and my boyfriend both work on weekends, so we had to figure all that out, but it was fine. And on Tuesday, I got the call about what was wrong with the car. And oh boy, they had a whole 7-page list for me. The main issue was that the spark plug cap was broken, and my car has an oil leak pretty much constantly. And so the oil was spilling into the spark plugs. So we needed a new cap and new spark plugs. Nothing too seriously, it was just annoying and expensive. However, my friendly neighborhood dealership had a lot more in store for me. I feel like they always say the engine and cabin air filters need replacing, so of course they said that. They said I was overdue for an oil change and that the oil was black and so old and whatever, and all 4 of my tires were bald and they needed alignment, and then they recommended a transmission flush. And so if you don't know much about cars, that all sounds pretty serious. Unfortunately for my dealership, my mom raised me on Top Gear and Formula One before it was cool. You want to know what kind of magazines that we had in our bathroom to read growing up? Consumer Reports. As soon as I got that phone call, I was like, bro, you can fix my spark plugs, but you are not touching anything else. First of all, I know for a fact that the oil in my car is fresh and certainly not all black and gross and whatever. I think a lot of Hyundais have oil leak issues, so I'm constantly checking my car for oil and seeing where it's at. It's something my dad always pesters me about, and I pester my boyfriend to check it for me and all that kind of stuff. But not only that, we just got the oil changed the week before. Not even kidding, it's only 100 miles over the last oil change. We've got 3,000 more miles before we're due for one, and that's on the low end, right? So secondly, every single time that I go to the dealership, they tell me my air filters just desperately need to be replaced, and every single time they show me an air filter that does not belong to me. And how do I know that? I change my air filters myself. It's a 5-minute job. It's one of the easiest car things in the world to figure out and learn and do. And they want to charge how much? Oh my god. Seriously, I can go down to any auto parts store and get air filters for about $30. They want $80 to change each of my air filters. So 80 for the cabin, 80 for the engine. Are you fucking kidding me? How much do service providers get paid? $80 an hour? And then we get to the tire alignment, which I immediately declined because first off, I have brand new tires. They told me they were bald. They are not. I bought them in October. And then second, I recently, also in October, had my alignment done by a mechanic that I actually trust. And the whole thing took about a day and cost $125. This dealership quoted me $2,000 for the tires and the align. Are you fucking kidding me? And then last but certainly not least, they insisted that I was in desperate need of a transmission flush, and pretty much all experts agree at this point, that's not something that you should do for your car, and it's actually one of the worst things that you can do for your transmission, and then you have to pay, you're paying the dealership to essentially fuck up your transmission. Okay, great. If you can't already tell, I'm not the biggest fan of car dealerships, and fun fact, I was actually, I sold cars over the phone at a dealership. So I was in sales for a short period of time until I realized that the stress and the guilt of working there was slowly killing me. So not only am I more knowledgeable about cars than the average Gen Z person, I mean, low bar, but still, I just also have some insights into the behind the scenes of dealerships. So I know how they scam the average consumer. And that's exactly what I'd like to talk about today. As of the first quarter of 2026, Americans are $1.69 trillion in debt, worth of auto loan debt. The average loan debt being $43,000 for new cars and $27,000 for used cars. That's fucking insane. And yeah, as someone who sold cars over the phone, I've learned that most people absolutely cannot afford to buy a car. But still, I would get calls constantly from people trying to recheck their credit or trying their credit on different vehicles to see if they could actually get approved for a loan. Or I would also get customers who would want to roll over their debt from their first car onto a new car. And so now we are, as a country, at a record number of people who are upside down in their car payments. And being upside down means that you owe more than your vehicle is actually worth. And then car repossessions have increased by 43% since 2022. Just insane. And so why are we at such a ridiculous debt rate? Well, the average cost of cars in America has just skyrocketed, and the average income has stayed about the same. And according to CNBC, you can no longer find a vehicle for under $20,000. In fact, vehicle prices have increased from about $27,000 to $35,000 on average in 2018 to an average of $49,000 in 2026. And we're not even halfway through 2026 quite yet. So to put that into perspective, the median American income is about $44,000 a year. So the average person would have to save up an entire year worth of salary just to afford what is probably a base model car. But of course, most people aren't buying their cars outright. Most people get auto loans in order to afford a new vehicle. And of course, now with inflation and income disparity, auto loans are now longer and more expensive than ever. So the average vehicle interest rate is now at 6.9% for new vehicles, and the average low-income consumer, so anyone making under $35,000 a year, has a monthly car payment of $738. Like, holy shit, dude. I still know a few people who are renting apartments for $800 a month. Imagine paying the same amount monthly for your car as your house. And that doesn't even include stuff like insurance or interest. So people with low credit scores often receive interest rates of 18% or higher, according to the Century Foundation. So that means that they could be paying over $14,000 of interest on a car that originally cost $30,000. Like, oh my god. I feel so bad for the people who have essentially been tricked into paying double for a car that was likely overpriced in the first place. And dealerships have always been well known for this kind of predatory behavior, but they go after uninformed people and pretend to be their friend and then convince them to buy crap that they can't even afford, and they honestly don't even need half the time. I know from personal experience that salespeople are encouraged to press customers and get them to buy things that are unnecessary, like insurance, different subscription packages, or even just getting into a long-term loan that's going to cost them more in the long run. I remember one time getting a call from this woman who had recently bought a car from us, and she wanted to know that why her monthly payment was $1,100 a month when she had originally signed a contract that said it was going to be $800 a month. So when I got that call, I went to our finance department to see what was going on, and it turned out that the extra $300 per month was for a subscription service that didn't even apply to the car that she had bought. So then I had the fun job of explaining to her that since she didn't opt out of the subscription, that it was automatically applied when she bought the car, and so she was obligated to keep paying for it for the full year. And it was one of those like self-driving features that some cars have. It only really works on newer cars, and it only works in really specific areas, like on straight long highways. And her car would not be able to self-drive even with the subscription. And I guess they kind of just skipped over that part when they sold her the car and just went, yeah, sign anyway, whatever. So yeah, she's probably still out there somewhere paying $300 extra a month for a self-driving car that cannot self-drive. And dealerships are totally aware that they're doing this to people. My store sold used cars all the time that weren't completely fixed up, like they knew there was something wrong with them. But then they would convince people, hey, oh, buy the warranty, you never know if something's going to happen with your car, and like the warranty will have you covered for the first 6 months or a year or 3 years or whatever. And they do that because they knew that the car was definitely going to break down in a couple of days. So if the customer bought the warranty, they'd come back like to fix their car, and they'd be like so grateful that they got the warranty, and they'd be like, oh, thank goodness I got the warranty. But then if they hadn't gotten the warranty, they'd come in, they'd be all mad, and the salespeople would just be like, well, you know, it's not too late to get the warranty. You should have bought the warranty in the first place. We told you this could have happened. Yeah. I fucking hated working there. What makes it even worse is that they all kind of drink the Kool-Aid, and they tell themselves that they're doing the right thing and they're being helpful and that they're good people and all this shit. Like, I had a couple of coworkers that would always say, like, hey, you know, if we don't pull their credit, they'll just go to one of the other shady dealerships who will pull their credit multiple times, and then their credit will get worse. So it's really better if we do it. Like, at least we know that we're doing, you know, we're only going to pull it once and that we're not going to hurt their credit that much. And then, you know, also get the sale. So it might as well be me. And in case you didn't know, like, having a dealership pull your credit, check your credit, will lower your credit score if you're not approved and you don't buy the car. So yeah, there would be some people who would like come in and be like, oh, I want this used Tahoe with only 80,000 miles on it. But that would be too nice a car for their credit to approve, like if they had like a 600 or lower. And so they'd be like, okay, well, I guess maybe I'll try this van with 200,000 miles on it, and they'd try that and it still wouldn't work, and they'd just keep going lower and lower down and trying worse cars, and they just wouldn't be able to get anything because their credit kept getting worse on top of that. And that's not where the dishonesty ends. Like my experience the other day, many dealers will just lie to their customers in order to upsell them on products or services that they just don't need. Dealerships will often push oil changes that just aren't needed. Air filters are almost always suggested. I saw a lot online, people always being like, oh my god, the air filters, why are they always trying to do the air filters? Me personally, my dealership, seriously, every single time they show me air filters that are not mine, and it drives me nuts. Like last time, they showed me some weird oval ones that were definitely not mine because mine are square. I was just like, what? How stupid do you think I am? Like, they didn't even try. Even more fun, dealerships especially love to prey on female customers. Yay, lucky us. Women are often stereotyped as being uninformed and timid when it comes to vehicle repairs, so service departments will often take advantage and attempt to scare them into getting things that they don't need, or try and intimidate them into buying a car like, oh, you're not going to get it unless you take this exact deal, which is exactly what happened to me the other day. The service guy called and said, hey, I sent you an email with all the details, but I wanted to call and walk you through it to make sure you understand everything, because I know it looks super complicated on the email. And then he mansplained to me all of the unnecessary things that he wanted to do to my car, and he kind of just brushed off the things that actually needed to be done with my car. He was like, oh yeah, you definitely need spark plugs, but also the fucking oil on this car, dude. So he basically said like my car would be undrivable without like the alignment, the wheel alignment and the tires and all that other crap he wanted to do, and the transmission flush especially he kept on pushing, which again, that's something you should never get done. It's a literal scam. So I basically just said, how about you fix the spark plugs and we see what happens? All right. Yeah, I picked up my car yesterday. It works perfectly fine. I did not need any of the thousands of dollars of extra work that he wanted done. I'm gonna go take it to my mechanic that I actually trust and get a second opinion and show him the whole like estimate of work he wanted to do on it and be like, what do you think, guy? And they're probably gonna be like, no, we just did that stuff the other day. Should we be charging that much? Because wow. But yeah, women are often condescended to and talked down to at car dealerships, and they're often upsold more on items than men, due to being perceived as less knowledgeable and less aggressive, like less likely to fight back on that sort of thing. And so on average, women pay about $142 per year more than men on repairs. They are often quoted more for repairs as well. For example, when my boyfriend took the car to the dealership, they quoted him about $800 for the repairs. When they found out it was my car, it was suddenly quoting at $1,025. The only upside that researchers have found to being a woman with a car is that if you ask for some sort of concession or discount, you are more likely to get it than a man is. It's something called the chivalry effect, where basically men like when women ask them to help them, so they're more likely to do it. And I've also experienced this. There's one time I was feeling lazy and I didn't want to change the air filters on my car, so I was just like, yeah, oil change guy, you can do it for me. And he was like, that'll be $20 for that. And I was like, oh, for both? And he said, oh my god, I'm so sorry. No, I can give you one for free, so $20 for one. And I wasn't even complaining. I was just trying to confirm the price, but hey, free air filter. So the moral of the story is it sucks to be a car owner right now. Double whammy if you're a woman with a car. All I can say for sure is do your research. Try to know as much as you can before going into a dealership. Know that they are trying to screw you over, whether that's on repairs or financing. Bring backup, especially as a woman. If you bring a man with you, I think you're more likely to have success. They're not going to talk down to your man friend or whoever you bring with you, and they're going to expect that they'll know more, so they're not going to try and trick you into anything. And then, you know, two heads are always better than one. But just overall, don't let people push you into something when you don't know what it is. Like, come on, what are they going to do? Are they really not going to sell you a $30,000 hunk of metal on wheels just because you said no to a $600 roof rack? I don't think so. And of course, don't buy a car you don't need. I see so many stories about people buying luxury cars just because they want to impress like someone on Instagram or their old friends from high school or the teenagers out front of Walmart. I don't know. But it's just about flexing. It's just about, you don't actually need that car to get to work. You could get there on anything, but instead you go hundreds of thousands, not hundreds, but you know, tens of thousands of dollars into debt just because you want to look cool. And yeah, I mean, it would be super cool to have a nice car and flex on people, but at the same time, is that worth being in that much debt? No. So just get something that's in your price range. It gets good gas mileage and it's easy to fix. And if you can buy it with cash, that's even better. Don't get a loan if you don't have to. For real. And I've personally never had a car loan. I only buy used cars that I'm able to buy outright, that I'm sure that I'll be able to, you know, fix up when the time comes. And as annoying as repairs can be at times, at least I'm not paying $1,100 a month for a self-driving car that can't even drive itself. Anyway, yeah, so that was my week. Very interesting, very fun for me. But I'm Sienna. Thanks for watching if you made it this far. I've been just talking about all the weird adult things that drive me nuts lately, so yeah, stick around if you want to hear more about that. Let me know in the comments below if you've had any weird car experiences like that, especially if you're a lady and they're always trying to get you to get extra cabin filters that you don't need. I don't know, whatever. But yeah, that's gonna be it for today. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you later.